And here we go for the final time tonight. It's Antic up against Bliss, a clash at the top of the table and a bit of a reunion at the same time there, Telly, right? We've got all these members coming together and saying, you know what, Chiefs is no longer around, but it's a bit of a Chiefs party. You know, yourself on the broadcast here as a caster, you got Bayou, Raze, Aladoric, Dracu, like the whole squad's back together, and between all of them, it's a case of like, we're all incredibly good, we've all won the highest highs, but what can we do? And I suppose specifically from an Antic point of view, it's like, can we bring this back and at least salvage a point?
Where's Topoon? Someone call him up. Is he in Twitch chat?
Every time I post on Twitter, he's straight there. Like, he's always watching.
True.
He's there.
I haven't really spoken to him much, but whenever I like at him on Discord, he always responds instantly. So, you know, he's got me on his mind. That's good to hear. Really miss the guy, but you know, we are in draft now, Skimmy, so we get to be a bit more serious, focus up. Very similar, you know, bans from the Antic side, getting rid of a lot of Harry's Shameful, but they're giving him the Corki, which he had in game 1 and they had so much success on. But in return, they are going to trade away the Skana, which is probably something that they're targeting. They really want to, you know, make sure they're trading OP for OP. And I want to see if they have a different answer to the Corki in the mid lane this time.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, they need to make sure they answer back with so much aggression. There it is. We asked, where was the Sejuani? Why do we not play it in this region? And if you do want to go for an AP option always in the mid lane, then look, you get yourself the Sejuani, and now you can pop off. But with the Yone too, I mean, this makes a lot more sense why you let the Corki go through.
I think Sejuani is so strong, Skimmy, because she's one of the champs where you can rush the Warmogs and not, you know, feel so squishy. Because a lot of these champs who rush, you know, the flat health don't have access to any resistances. But Sejuani still has the passive, the Frost Island, which means she is still going to be tanky from, you know, absorbing all this engage and can also navigate these team fights to sustain with the Warmog. So really good pairing along with a lot of top laners right now. A lot of these are, you know, aggressive top laners like the Renekton and the Camille. But we get to see the Yone coming out on 14-12 with the buff, you know, a bit of extra armor in the early game, which means much better matchup into the Corki. Already was a very good matchup into the Corki, so I think this is a very good opening for Antic. Different showing, but I think I like the aggression.
I like it too. It's certainly a new way of them playing the game compared to what we've seen in the weeks go by. And so much was that champion pool pinch that they're going to lock in the Ezreal very, very early. And a nimble champion like this, it could be Nazeri, that gets denied. The Ezreal, the next best bet. Two of these AD carries going to be incredibly mobile and really hunting down literally everything, skirting the line between Def and, yeah, Madman Genius.
Yeah, and these are the drafts we like to see, Skimmy, because like you just see a lot of skill expression coming out of these first, you know, 6 champs from both rosters, you know, minus Norlis. But it's whatever, it's okay. We'll do whatever it takes to win these days. But I really like to see the Kai'Sa, the Ezreal, the Yone, like these very high skill level champions being played at the competitive level. It's so nice to see them being viable again and being able to, you know, these pro players being able to show their skill expression on these really cool champs.
Well, we've only seen one game of the Yone this entire split. It was played by Harry, you know, funnily enough, and he did go for that rather, you know, tanky pseudo carry build, right? He went for the Iceborne Gauntlet with your traditional Blade of the Rune King. That just went into more mitigation and more mitigation. Wit's End, Shield Bow, Bob's your uncle, right? It was very, very easy for him to try and sustain his way through all that harass, but I'm curious to see what we're going to get on this occasion, because the Skana is banned away. Same for the Brand 2. The response from Bliss is we're going to be concerned about their ability to try and out-split push us with the Camille, or at least put it at the door and prevent all our poke and projectiles.
I'm curious about what Antic is cooking in the top lane, Skimmy, because you look at their comp, they have no AP threat right now. The Rumble has been removed, and Mordekaiser isn't necessarily a pick you can just do all the time. So what is Zarnis looking at in the top lane to be that solid AP threat? Is it going to be something like the Gwen, or, you know, is he going to pull out something completely different? Will he play a control mage in the top lane? Because a lot of these blind picks for Bayo right now are quite passive.
They certainly are. They really are at this stage. And I'm curious, given that he's played so many splits of the LCO now, dating all the way back to the start of 2022, is it going to be something, you know, very standard, like a Gragas, for example? Or does he go all out and say, yeah, as you mentioned, give me the Gwen, let's pop off for, you know, be an absolute terror. Perhaps even a cheeky Kennen, if we want to go all in on that team fight take. There's so many different options up and available. As you say, Bayo will go for the passive option. Yeah, just lock me in Cassante. Give me a tank, give me a bruiser. I don't care.
Yeah, and they have got a very simple comp, you know, we were talking about double 80 carry, front line, and a AP jungler. So they have, you know, ticked all the boxes, they fill out the checklist, and if Antic do decide to lock in this Twisted Fate, I'm very scared about that damage profile, because Ezreal, not someone who's known for blowing up these tanks. Yone, even though he does have the split damage, won't have the damage profile to be able to take down this Cassante or the Nautilus. And if these these super tanks do come through, I'm very scared if Antic don't get ahead early game. Are they going to be able to kill this these frontline members from Bliss?
It is a very valid concern, and I think it once again circles back to the point of, okay, yeah, Twisted Fate can be exceptionally strong. In isolation against the Cassante, certainly was one of our go-tos for such a long time, but where else does the pain and pressure come from? You really need to make sure that the Ezreal spikes before that of the Kaiser. You need to make sure that the Yone comes online as well. Otherwise, we certainly saw what Harry can do on the Corki. We'll just take over the game individually. And, you know, you've always got to wait about those evolutions of the Kaiser. We know that Violet absolutely loves this champion. So I like the revitalized style from Antic to say it didn't work game one. Let's try something different now on the red side. But for Bliss, it just, as you mentioned, you're just going through the tick boxes. You know, double AD carry, AP frep. There we go.
I'm curious to what the lanes will look like this game scheme, because Bliss do have the option to lane swap and make sure that this Twisted Fate doesn't get access to any resources in the early game. And Cassante, can, you know, we always talk about that dive potential doesn't really exist onto the Cassante, especially, you know, when you're playing an Ezreal who doesn't have that early game damage, and a lot of your damage can be avoided when you're standing inside the creep. So is this a potential lane swap going forward, or do they want to match lanes to make sure that Biopanther can get as much gold as possible? Because when he does start stacking up that armor, he's going to be unkillable this game.
He certainly will be an absolute menace. And I suppose on that talking point, it's going to be a very different jungle matchup this time around, right? The fact that we are going to have the Talia be lightning quick through and farming up, becoming an absolute powerhouse individually, whereas for the flip side of the Sejuani, really wants to be active on the map, really wants to be playing towards those lanes, getting those kills online as quickly as they can, and hoping that those break points that make those champions relevant around the mid game is going to be their saving grace. Let's load into the Rift then for game number 2. Bliss, as it stands, have that one win. One step closer to locking out on the outright second place, whereas for Antic, whilst it wouldn't change their placings, would certainly allow them to say, all right, there's still a lot left in the tank. We'll fight you again once playoffs come around.
Yeah, a lot of early aggression coming out of Bliss, so they're going to go, you know, try scout out where Foreigner is, get some early wars. They want to really find out where he starts, because Kevy wants to avoid these skirmishes against the Sejuani early on. He wants to really prioritize clearing his jungle and you know, avoiding the 1v1 and growing his lead individually, because when Sejuani links up with the gold card in top lane with the, you know, the easy ability of proccing your E in the 2v2 in mid lane, and also the Alistair CC, that's when she really comes on and becomes this really strong skirmishing champion. So Kevy really wants to avoid the Sejuani as much as possible in the early game and scale up towards the mid game.
Let's see now what the focus will be for Bliss, and I suppose more so for Antic then, with all those options for Foreigner. It's, you know, a bit of a Christmas come early as to where do I want to go, how much gold do I want to achieve. The sky certainly could be the limit here, but they are fighting on an uphill battle, knowing just how strong Bliss are and how confident they were in that game one, despite falling down, despite having a bit of a questionable moment in that 4v5, to bring it back, to close things out, and to, you know, finally rid themselves of those demons from last week.
Yeah, we do see the first strike coming out of Harry this game. He recognizes that he doesn't need the fleet in his 1v1. His lane is completely free in the early game. And, you know, after first base, if he does want to go for those tabbies, as we see a lot of Corkis do, because they want to bridge that scaling point and be able to get to their Triforce as safely as possible, he's going to be getting a bit of extra access to some gold in the early game to really snowball his build that extra bit faster.
Speaking of snowballing, look how well Harry once again is doing. It is to be expected to a degree right into this matchup, especially in those early few levels. The Yone does need a little bit of time on his side to make sure that he can step up to the wave, can at least be aggressive and trade back, and not allow the Corki to have so much freedom to do as they please. And I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on that, but as it stands, I'm sure bot lane will be once again the major focus, as Eladoric not looking for too much more than just a bit of a bait. As Ray's incredibly aggressive, says, you know what, in your face, I'll auto-attack you down.
And I think a lot of people forget that Raze was like one of our traditional or OG Ezreal players, and he was someone who was always really respected on these picks. So very nice to see him pull it back out again. Curious to what build he wants to go through though, because I know there's a lot of different Ezreal builds. Like there's your traditional, you know, Triforce with the Shojin build, but there's also some AP builds that have popped up. You know, we do remember the Shadow Flame Ezreal. That could be a potential option with him, as they do lack a lot of AP damage, and you know, that could be something to bridge the damage profile that this team has right now.
We've certainly seen many years ago, right? And I sort of joked about it in the interview with Predator that he went for that AP hybrid Ezreal. And look, it serves its place. It certainly could be the answer in this one if they do need that extra bit of damage to try and bridge them, because they did elect for this Twisted Fate as their 5th and final, making sure that this 1v1 into Biopanther would be the focus, and hoping that the attention of the Sejuani could be better placed elsewhere. We'll have to see if that proves to be a successful strategy, because every single time we pop our head into mid lane, I mean, Harry is so pushed up in this lane. It's just like, you know, you want anything, get through me first.
The funny thing is, I mean, you look at the health values right now, you already see that Harry has popped his potion, whereas Incursor hasn't. So Incursor is actually out-sustaining Harry in terms of, you know, the keystone. But we see Gang coming into bot lane. There is no AD carry here.
Oh, what a crazy turn of events, Raze! He doesn't care! Go for the first blood. Ooh. You're not going to farm me. Fantastic headbutt. Now Draco has the body block. He's going to cop the hook. He says, Raze, live. You are the focused. I will be your protector. And Violet will answer back as he returns to lane. But that was a crazy first blood.
Shout out Draco, you know, going down for his AD carry there. Did his job. Such a nice, you know, initial Q flash onto Kevy to find that surprise burst. Surprised that Bliss did go for that gank though without Violet being in lane, and I'm curious to how he was forced to base so early, or if that was, you know, him going for that tempo recall after they crashed away, wasn't really paying attention to the bot lane. But really well played from the Antic bot lane, using that the strength of Ezreal in the early game. We always talk about, oh, Kai'Sa is a necessarily good pick into the Ezreal, but I think, you know, trading the W order is always going to be favorable inside the creep wave. But once again, like, really well played by both members from the Antic bot lane to really execute this kill, and a really good job by Draco to make sure his AD carry gets out of here alive.
And you can see in the replay there that, you know, Violet is halfway back to the lane by the time that fight starts. So it's almost a case of going too quick when the fight should have just been slow. You know, you've got them already so overextended as a duo against your tower, but maybe just thinking they have enough damage as a two-man to get it done. Wasn't to be the case, but it does get evened out. Both AD carries walk away just a little bit richer. So I'm sure at the end of the day, no one's really too upset.
Yeah, and I think that Incursor has done a much better job in the early game this time to, you know, navigate the hard matchup. He's able to find himself the reset. Going to be able to pick up a much better buy than Harry on his first base, and I think that this is the hardest point for Yone over. He's got access to the Berserkeries, which means his lane is much stronger now, and his ability to trade. Race does not have access to the Arcane Shift right now, so if they do want to commit, that is a window for them to punish.
It's always one of the classics, the interactions right between the Arcane Shift and the Dredge line. You can always look to try and buffer that and say that that's pretty useless. Not going to catch me as long as I'm paying attention. Very hard to lock me down. Both these bushes right now about to expire, but both were preoccupied by Bliss, knowing exactly what shenanigans Draco's up to there with the Hex Slash. They're not going to be falling victim to any surprises a second time around, but with the tier already being purchased, Raze is going to be sitting pretty as he looks to try and stack up, and same for Harry too. So, I mean, you mentioned before that Incursor is looking to try and out-sustain things with the tier 2 boots complete and with level 6 too. Certainly has the ability to not only trade back, but also to be aggressive.
Yeah, and we see the trade of objectives around now, so this will favor Foreigner because you do get more experience from the Grubs, but for Bliss, this will favor them as a team. They're going to be able to get access to the first dragon, which means they start, you know, the clock starts ticking for them when it starts to stacking these dragons. Although, you know, looking at the top matchup with Zonus and being able to hit these tower plates so easily, having the Grubs is a very good position for him to be in.
Certainly is to be the case. Oh, good flash. Otherwise, that could have been a very easy pickup for Incursor to hunt on down with the Fate sealed up and available. But you did see that Zonus burnt the Destiny, not for an engage, as I might hold myself for a second, but looks like nothing may come of this one. He did burn that Destiny just to make sure that Foreigner was protected when he went for all those grubs. So, as you mentioned, they're going to have all that potential to be aggressive. This Dracu, it's mind games between these two.
That was very scary indeed, but I think that the Antic bot lane is doing really good at trading. You know, I feel like a lot of these trades, they look like they're being performed by the Antic bot lane so well, especially when, you know, Kevy is putting so much attention to them on this side of the map. And will this gank work, Skimmy?
It's looking pretty good right now. The Weaver's Wall goes out, but it's actually afforded them enough space to try and get themselves out. Raze the focus, but Violet's already committed with the Killer Instinct. He's got no mana left right now, but he can hide between this minion wave, which makes it incredibly hard to lock you down. So it gets away on this occasion, and yet again, the focus being bot lane, but everybody survives.
They just look so comfortable on this 2v2 Skimmy. They outplay the game. They find the kill onto Aladoric even without Foreigner being there, but Foreigner showing up means that Violet can't find the trade kill onto Raze, has to flash out himself. And just once again, we're seeing the favor going to the anti-side, even though we're seeing so much jungle attention being put by Bliss to bot lane.
Yeah, and this is always to be expected when we do get that rare glimpse into the top lane, right? The fact that Zonus can just push in this wave, get all these plates and say, bye, you're going to need to summon an army to try and take me down. I'm just such an annoying rat of a champion, right? Always harassing you from afar. You can't get any CS. You can already see that is the biggest divide between all these lanes. But let's run it back with this replay one more time, because from the very get-go between Kevy and Aladoric, it looks clean.
Yeah, there was a minuscule timing that Raze had to use these Arcane Shift to dodge out there, but, you know, Aladoric goes in, he's trying to find that initial engage, but he's already missing half his health, so he just falls down to a lot of the AoE damage coming out of the Ezreal and the Alistar.
So back to bot lane again we go, as we get to see what may take place again. No summoners available in terms of the flash, but Raze is about to come off cooldown in a second if Kevy were to relentlessly look to try and camp and gank this bot lane and make sure that it does go back in their favor. He's already sitting on the Sheen, so that damage profile is starting to find its presence, whereas for Violet, still working towards that very first evolution. So we'd love to get that pickaxe online nice and quickly to get the Void Seekers all done. And yeah, we get to see really where the next focus will be, because in terms of jungle ganks from Team Bliss, it's all been bot side, whereas for Foreigner, it's a case of what flashes can I burn?
Yeah, and I think the next focus point will be either the mid lane for that repeat gank onto punishing Harry's flash, or the grubs in a minute. Getting the 6 grubs will be so huge for this Antic roster, as they do have the strongest side laner, so being able to really take down these turrets will be so huge for their team, and accumulating this gold lead they really need. But this could be a dive happening right now, Skimmy.
It's looking to be the case, isn't it? A 3-man collapse, and it's going to be dissuaded, because unfortunately that tower is going to have all those minions crash into it. It'd be so overzealous if they were to try and dive Harry this early on. Only 10 minutes into the game, mind you, right? They've just died at the tower more so than anything. So unable to punish the flash timings on that window. But what is interesting is that finally they've actually gone for the lane flip and said, you know what, it's too much. And it makes sense, because the next grubs are up in 20. Yeah, and
this is the strength of the Cassante into the Twisted Fate. You can chuck him on the weak side of the map. He's so hard to dive. Even though he, it doesn't have the same amount of CS as Zoranus does on the Twisted Fate, he is a tank, and he is very happy to use that path, make absorb so much damage. So we see the match happening right now on the map, but we see the aggression happening onto Harry with, with no flash, but they're not finding the kills they really need.
Yeah, to look for the Fate Seal, but that was going nowhere fast. Glacier Fissure into a Pulverize, and that is lights out for Kevy. You want those grubs? You've committed the lane swap. Not on our watch. So it may just be a case of Antic picking up all 6, and now the shoe's on the other foot, because they'll have so much sieging potential. Yes, it's luxury for Bio to try and push in that wave and maybe get a tower in the process, but he's going to have to commit that TP now. There is no Zoranus. The fight's going to break out, and Kursu life-stealing off that camp, flashes in. The clone is already out, raised across the wall, bursting the ignite, but it's not enough to take him out. They're going to get 5 grubs, but they might lose the fight as a result of this one. Ray's weaving in the damage. It's a spell slinger from afar, but he can't commit. True Shot Barrage is there. Bio soaking it all up. And in the end, it's Kevin that says, watch this. The fight's not done yet.
Yeah, and really, really nice by Bliss. They see that Zoranus has left, doesn't have access to the TP, already committed the Destiny for the initial kill, so he's reset, he's gone to bot side. And, Harry's going to carry that fight pretty much, get out of there, walk down the bot lane, use the TP to make sure that there is no trailing outside the map. So Team Bliss on the back foot find a really nice initial trade, and I think this is just a good job by Antic to good job by Bliss to recognize that they do have the numbers advantage here with the TP coming out of Bio. And Incursio rotating late here, and a really nice engage from Alador. Raze is instantly forced out of the fight by Violet, and he just can't do the damage he needs to make sure that this fight is being traded. And we see Cassante in these skirmishes and how strong he is with the all-out.
That barrier certainly was the difference maker there. If that was a summoner heal, may not have been as lucky with that Grievous Wounds active. You can see that, Raze is strong, but you're that zoned out from being so low. You certainly don't get to showcase your true power potential. But no doubt Violet's going to be very happy about how that all turned out. Now sitting at 2-0-1, has the Kraken Slayer complete. Back to bot lane, looking for the headbutt pole. Locked down Harry, and the passive auto attack gets it done as well. Dracu getting so low, he has no ultimate. He can't tank much more than this. No way! Harry gets 2 on the tower dive.
Yeah, very effortless for Harry there. Gets dived on, gets the easy double kill, and I think the main point of this is that there's so much pressure on mid lane right now, and they might look for this dive on the Raze if they feel comfortable, but Foreigner being in the back pocket means it's going to be a bit scary for Bliss if they do want to go for this.
Oh, look how annoying that poke is with those Void Seekers, right? Effortless for Violet to lock down Raze and say, look, we could have dived you, but we might just poke you out. Good luck trying to deal with this one. The True Shot Barrage used in retaliation, but it's not enough, because Violet is steadily pulling away, up by 30 CS as well. And that crit scaling is going to be a bit of a menace if he decides to go all in on that direction. So the ganking squad turns from bot into mid, and then looks at top lane and says, you know what? Next on your menu, shut down Incursio and make sure Zione is not an issue.
Yeah, he smelt something. He was leaving his turret initially, but just not in time. They're already on the front foot. We get to see the combination of that CC paired with the amount of damage coming out of Kevy right now. Already has his illusions completed. Going to stack up the Dark Seal as well, and he's so strong right now. Scaling onto this game, though, we do look at his counterpart in Foreigner, and we get to see the Zeke's completed, and I think this is one of like the newer items we get to see a lot of these tanks build. It's just a really nice utility item, you know, it provides you armor and magic resist, which is hard to find on items in the early game, and it's so cheap. The AoE slow is so impactful as well, and Harry with no flash could be in trouble right now.
With the moves, he jukes out that Glacial Fissure, but can he juke out all the CC that comes in thereafter? The depth charge is good. It locks in place one, but Kevy surfs across into the bot lane and says with the assistance of this tower, it might be deja vu. We might turn things around again. Violet then explodes into action with that Killer Instinct, and the mobility tally, it's just too much to answer.
Yeah, and this is just the numbers advantage that Bliss has. You know, they have 4 members on the bot side, you only have 3. They're always going to win that. But, you know, the other side of the map, there is farm being put on the correct members. You know, finally, Incursio gets a bit of breathing room, going to be able to push out a wave. Hopefully finds his Blade of Ruin King as soon as possible, because look at his counterpart in Harry. Triforce is already completed. The buildings of the Buren Manor are coming along, and I think this might have just been a bit of an overextension from Antic. It takes too long to kill this Corki, honestly. There's just not a lot of damage coming out of them right now, and this might be the fact that they are so one-dimensional when it comes to their damage profile. It's just a bit too much attack damage.
And they have no raise, right? And that's the major focus, or has really been the major focus in both these drafts, to make sure that he's you know, online. But he was just on his own farming up the mid wave, and sort of draws the attention back towards that Twisted Fate pick when you would have liked to Gwen perhaps instead. But you know, that's neither here nor there, as I am just slowly dying in real life here. Aladork surrounded by 4. He'll fall on down. And with the Herald up and available, it's actually perfect timing for Antic to move over.
And this is the strength of the Twisted Fate. You know, there are, like, unfortunately you do, you know, have a lot of AD on your team, but Twisted Fate will win his 1v1, will be able to push out and group and use his Destiny to pick off members who are split like that. And if Kevin and Aladork are walking in as 2, they're always going to find themselves outnumbered when matched by Foreigner, Dracu plus Zoranus, and just be able to drop a gold card on top of Kevy's head means he will die if he's out of position, as we see that, you know, Aladork has to fall down to make sure Kevy gets out of there safely.
But I am very curious, Tally, as this game goes on and on and on, whether or not the game plan from Antic is going to be to never entertain the full 5v5 and then fully rely on the likes of, you know, the Twisted Fate and the Yone to split push, and hope that with the protection of a Sejuani and an Alistair, that Raze can be so safe and so, you know, elusive that they actually never, you know, die in the process of defending as a free man.
I would say you're sort of forced to, you know, entertain the 5v5, especially around these objectives when Bliss want to start forcing these dragons, and eventually to the point where they can start hitting this Baron. You have to respect it and answer in tandem. You can't just give these objectives over just because there's a lot of armor in the enemy team. The only problem is a lot of the armor pen items coming out of, you know, Antic's side is like they don't really exist. You know, you don't really like a lot of the armor pen items on Ezreal. Like the Sereldas isn't ideal. Lord Dominic's isn't ideal. You know, you can't really utilize the lethality from the Sereldas. You can't utilize the crit from the Lord Dominic, so you're kind of subpar when it comes to building armor pen items on Corki. Twisted Fate wants to be on hit. You know, Yone doesn't really want to build an armor pen item if he doesn't have to. He wants to really just go for a lot of the you know, crit items into like a defensive mix. So if he is forced to build the LDR this game, he's going to be a very, very squishy champion, especially going into the so much damage coming out of the Bliss lineup.
Which makes it terrifying, because then the question is asked, who kills Bipanther? He's already got the Frozen Heart, no doubt working towards even more of that armor as well. Perhaps the Sunfire to come out next. And it's like, well, if you can't get past him, how do you ever gain access to the backline? Will we just have a game of fireworks of everybody being so mobile that the tanks just simply get walked right past? Well, here goes another attempt for them to try and be aggressive. That goes the Glacial Fissure nice and early as Dracu, just, you know what, takes Shelly for a bit of a divert and says, you know what, I need to get the hell out of dodge here, and Shelly will give me a helping hand.
What do we just see Aladork do? He flashed in front of the Rift Herald to try and block it from running away, but it doesn't work like that anymore. You know, we've all seen the LPL, you know, the drift clip and the power of the Rift Herald when you get access to that. So, you know, Dracu uses that one to escape from a very bad situation as he was collapsed on by multiple members from Bliss, and you see Aladork blowing the flash, which is so important. It's such a crucial engage tool for the Bliss lineup.
100%, absolutely, for the Nautilus of all people, right? So going to have to utilize that surprise factor from the Fog of War with that Hex Flash, but doesn't have the same luxury as he would have done on that Rakan to try and pull off those same plays to that level. Well, the Dragon gets looked at. The second one going the way for Antic, with Bliss already denying at least one. There won't be any early soul point to talk about here, but Bio given a rare chance to try and split push, whilst the rest of the team causes headaches elsewhere. Doesn't allow them to find yet another turret, their second of the game. Maybe quickly answered back here in the bot lane by Zoranis, as they have those 5 grubs to assist them in doing so. And the split pushing continues as the rest of the squads all rally around the mid lane.
Yeah, and I don't think Antic has done a good enough job of shutting down Bipanther. I think, when you look at the CS department, but, hold that point as we see Drac going for an engage onto Violet.
Yeah, going to go in for that 2-man. That's a fantastic seismic shove coupled with the depth charge, and the disengage to make sure that Violet survives may be good enough. The gold card was primed. It went the wrong way. It's not on the target they would have wanted. The damage is being split, and there's the seismic shove yet again. The hook densely close. Someone is flashing into their face, and that cannot go unpunished. Instant answer back from Bliss. And my god, what is happening here in the mid lane?
Yeah, really, really unfortunate series of events for Zoranis there. Initially his card runs out, so he can't get the first gold card off onto Violet when he was out of position. Then the second time around, he flashes forward to find it onto Violet again, but Violet has access to that E-Evolve, so he goes invisible, denies the, flash gold card execute from Zoranis, and he just looks like he's inting pretty much, because unfortunately, he just got outplayed twice by Riot Games, so he goes to go down there. But we find the engage initially by Dracu onto the members of Bliss. But once again, you mentioned such a good disengage from Kevy and Elador to buy so much space for his team, because if any of these members were any bit closer, this would have been a very one-sided affair for Antic.
Look how sad that is. You're just looking at Violet thinking this is the one. You get the next gold card cycled up, flash into their face, and surprise, surprise, yeah, you just get met with so much damage, rocking up his Harry. But it is Kevy that picks up the kill in the end. So frustration, visibly, but double Warmogs now to be picked up. Foreigner and Dracu well and truly now in their position to be their prime. But can they gain access to try and keep a guess as to where Bliss would be? Because they're causing enough headaches to say you don't have any vision of this side of the jungle, let alone do you have the ability to walk into this river to look at Baron.
I don't think Antic want to take this fight around us. We look at items in the inventories right now. We don't see Raze with these two complete items, which is the major power spike for Ezreal. But at the counterparts for them, 2 major carries from Bliss, we see items being completed already. So if they do take this fight, I think the damage gap could be quite one-sided.
Could be that case right now as the rocket connects and Raze the one to receive that amount of damage. They once again keep them guessing as to where we're going next. There's only a single blue wall trinket on that Baron now to be cleared out. They have no idea what's happening on this top half of the map.
Yeah, they're very, very afraid to face check, but when they see Violet on the wave, they know that the Baron threat just doesn't really exist. So I think that as long as they keep track of him, they're major Baron DPS member, so if they keep track of him, they shouldn't feel too worried. It's going to be a dance continuing to happen, but if they do want to face check, Dracu and Foreigner can commit. They can survive the initial engage. Dracu has access to the flash and the unbreakable will, so if they really, really feel pressure to check the Baron, they have the tools to.
They certainly do. If they can rely upon somebody to try and get the ball rolling, certainly Dracu has proven time and time again to rise to that occasion. No need to panic just yet, though. As you mentioned, there was a bit of an item discrepancy between these two, so they are able to afford themselves a few precious seconds to get themselves back into it, and you can see why, because Violet with just shy of 8.7 to his name is already a fair amount over that of Raze, but the most gold in the game goes to Harry, already outdoing that of the Twisted Fate.
Yeah, but you see Harry pick up the QSS here, so if he catches Zoranis off guard with the QSS, he can absolutely pick up that 1v1 against him, because there is no, no treads from Harry, so you would think that Twisted Fate can really abuse that stun duration to win the 1v1, but with the QSS picked up, he can match him on the side lane, he can win that, and that allows Bio to be the one to match the Yone, and Incursor doesn't find that 1v1 that he really wants in the side lane.
Not to be the case, as the Weaver's Wall once again primed and ready to go in the mid lane. A one-man depth charge. Kevy comes along and says, oh, there's the side shove again, but does he die as a result of this one? The minefield looks good in isolation, but not to be the case. Look at Violet go, jump straight into the backline to try and kill Raze, but then there is the fate sealed, and Incursor says, I shall protect. A double kill found for Violet before he does get taken down by Incursor, but it's still all things Bliss as everybody dies but Raze.
And the ult picks him up on the end, so maybe they don't have the damage to be able to take this Baron now. What a clutch true shot barrage coming out of Raze. We were talking about him being this member to really come out on top, but Harry has access to the flash, and I think that this might be the end of Raze if he doesn't dodge this last rocket.
Really hoped. You would have really hoped that that was a crit, but it doesn't matter. Yep, he's got the slows, he's got the damage, and you really thought for a second Raze had done enough. It was a crazy set of events.
Yeah, and this is the power of the Norliss Kai'Sa. Even though Ezreal does get out of the fight initially, there is just so much threat onto him when Kai'Sa has the ult marker. And we see Violet go in aggressively, to try and, trade off Raze, but he just does a really good job to get out of here. Unfortunately, Curcio doesn't find the initial kill onto Kevy here. I think he did a very good job, finding the trade, but misses the Q on the end. So, Bliss feel very confident going for the Baron, but it's just such a nice true shot barge from Raze, being someone who, in the past, we remember those Draven ults across the map, finding those snipes, and, making sure that the Baron didn't go down to the enemy team.
Goes it again, as you say, delays that potential power point that would have really put Bliss in control. And this does feel like a much closer affair, right? It's not really felt like we've ever hit a point where it was up by the crazy margins we found in game one. It's only up by, what, a couple of thousands. It's working its way towards potentially 3, but still, Antic keeping this one close. They've definitely got the aggressive tools to make sure they can try and punish anybody that gets caught out of position. And there it is. Gold card met with the Glacial Fissure. Cleanse Bird, and Zona's dead. Unfortunately, he cannot do it all on his own as a Twisted Fate. There goes Viper going all out, locking in place Dragku, and the rest of Antic have to scurry back to their mid-tier 2.
And Skimmy, I'm going to say it, the Twisted Fate is quite useless this game. Wasn't able to generate the lead he really needed. Bio did a really good job of absorbing so much pressure, and now we hit the mid-game. The Twisted Fate doesn't really offer anything because so many other members, have nerve treads, have that tenacity to navigate the gold card that he has. And, the cleanse on Violet means if they overextend, there is no kill threat onto him anyway. So a lot of this pressure that the Twisted Fate would bring from creating numbers advantage is just non-existent right now.
Not existent at all. Bit of a Hail Mary there from the likes of both Incurcio as well as Frona, but really well defended by Bliss to prevent them finding any access into that pivotal. So they will pick up the Baron. Run it back with this replay again, because it all starts with them looking to say, we've called out Violet, but the cleanse, and then the isolated 1v1.
Yeah, this is just an overextension from Antic. They should recognize the moment Violet flashes out of the fight, they should, turn back to the rest of the team and play together as a unit, because, overcommitting to someone who has flashing cleanse and the killer instinct, Violet can self-kill at that point. He is going to win the 1v1s, especially against the Twisted Fate. So he is very happy with how that fight turned out for him.
But is this the beginning of the end now, is the question really, because you mentioned that Zornis hasn't been able to come online. Raze is still very much behind in tandem to what Violet has to offer, and this is a 4-man attempt to shut down Biopanther. He is a raid boss. Takes a long time to take him down, given that he's all about the armor stacking.
The base.
And it just allows Bliss to do as they please. Do we push mid? Do we look at top? Do we take anything?
They just feel very pressured to make a play, because if this is going to be a 3-lane standard defense from Antic, they will lose their tower. So taking down Biopanther allows, Zornis to be in the side lane and create some pressure, which means Bliss have to respect that and reset. Really good by Bio to get the wave though, so there is no initial trade on the turret. If Zornis does decide to stay around, he will fall down to the collapsing members of Bliss, especially Kevy with his ult right now.
He's available. It's no Destiny. He does have the flash. I don't really time that one as to do I need to use it for the seismic shove. He just says, you know what, I'll elect for that 1v1 surrounded by 4. You know what, I'll just die for 40 seconds and we'll run it back on more favorable conditions. And nothing to be done yet though, are Antic. They're still going to be fighting into a team inspired by the Baron. And it's almost like we need to fight our way out of any situation.
That's absolutely it. They're fighting from the back foot, and they have to be the ones aggressing. They have to be the ones finding his initial engages, because I think if Bliss are the ones who find his engages with the, the Nautilus ult into, Kevy diving onto the backline, throwing out the pebbles onto multiple members, it's so hard to come back from those types of team fights, especially when you don't have the same AoE damage coming out of the Bliss lineup.
Well, all 6 outer turrets have now been taken. There's only one place to try and find Antic now, and that is them stuck inside their base. Everybody's decided to group up in the mid lane to attempt to assault that siege. In jumps Incurcio. He's 40 spotted the angle there with the Fate Seal, but he dies even before the slingshot can take him down back. The minefield is just so good, and the shove that much better. Double fan by Harry. Into the back line goes Violet. He's had enough. The hook is not going to connect. The flash is perfect, but CD after CD, they just get it done. And Bliss have just made this series look effortless.
Yeah, we see Bliss going for these very standard, stable style comps, very multiple ways to attack the game, and then we look at the counterparts of Antic, and it was just a lot of, room for error, and I think that, drafting such a one-dimensional, team comp style where you have so much attack damage, especially into one of the best tank players Oceania has ever known, is always going to be a mistake, Skinny.
Certainly is to be a mistake, and that is a fantastic outcome for Bliss here. After dropping 2-0 to what you'd say is their arch nemesis at this stage in Ground Zero, they've come back in the following week and said, you know what, Antic, we'll take you on and we'll square up and see exactly where we rank amongst the top 3. They've taken a very convincing 2-0. They came into this game only a point shy of Antic in second, and now they'll pinch that spot and be outright in that position themselves. So very happy day overall, and I'm sure the viewers at home are one step closer to understanding, all right, who are the front runners, who should we be interested in, and what storylines are going to carry over from the regular season into the playoffs. It's a perfect 2-0 on the night, all 3 points going the way of Team Bliss, and we'll jump for our final break of the night.